Hello, everyone. It's Dr. Wells from Super Sleep MD. Listen, I want to tell you today about a recent article that's getting a lot of news media attention. It's an article that came out in the Journal of the American Medical Association, which is a very high impact journal. So, this is a very good study. In this study, about 30 melatonin products that were gummies were taken off the shelf and analyzed to determine the dosage content of those gummies compared to what was shown on the label of that product. Now, the results were remarkable. So, out of the 30 brands, about 5 brands showed no melatonin contained in the gummies, and 22 of them had concentrations that were different than what was on the label. In fact, the amount of melatonin in some of the gummies was up to 357% more than what was advertised. There was one more finding that I want you to know about, and that is in one of the products, there was over 30 milligrams of CBD contained in the gummy. That was not advertised on the label. So this is a known issue with melatonin supplements. It has been shown before. In 2017, in the Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine, melatonin pills were analyzed and shown to have up to 478% greater melatonin in the pills compared to the label. And again, in that study, some of the products had 0 milligrams of melatonin, even though that's what's advertised on the bottle and that's what you paid for. In addition, in that study as well, there was an extra surprise, which was that some of the products contained serotonin. So people turn to these over-the-counter sleep aids frequently. They're easier to access than a prescription medication. And I think there's a myth that if it's over the counter, it must be safe. But that's not true. In fact, there's very little regulation that takes place to confirm that what's in the supplement matches what's on the label. And also, there's no oversight or quality assurance to make sure that there's pill-to-pill consistency within the same bottle or consistencies between different lots of that medication or supplement being produced. So it's really tempting because you have access to these over-the-counter preparations, and sometimes you really want to get relief from your sleep problems. Melatonin is considered a food supplement, and so now you know you may be getting more or less or even 0 than what you paid for. And I want you to understand that these food supplements are unregulated and you're at the mercy of the supplement industry, which is very financially motivated. So they don't even have any allegiances to make sure that these pills and potions are safe. There's a few situations where this might be especially problematic. So people who are subject to random drug screens for their employment or to maintain licensure may test positive for a substance that they didn't even know they were consuming. I think there's also folks out there that are very sensitive to medications and supplements. So when you're talking about melatonin, which is a hormone, or serotonin or CBD, you might see some side effects that you couldn't explain or didn't account for. And that's not fair, is what it comes down to. And I think also there's this idea that you kind of have some trust that the milligram dosage is what you're taking. But if you're taking 4 times as much, it may be affecting you in a way that you didn't anticipate. So this may come into play if you have some driving to do ahead of you. You may feel extra sleepy and be unsafe while you're driving. Finally, I want to point out that melatonin and other supplements are sometimes given to children. And that sort of increases the threshold for me and the look for safety. So medications oftentimes are not approved for children. And in this case, where you're not giving, the child may not be getting what's advertised on the bottle, can be really problematic. Now, melatonin is naturally produced by your body in a little gland right in the center of your brain called the pineal gland. And it's affected by the amount of light exposure that you have. What do I mean by that? Well, light suppresses melatonin secretion. So if you are in dim light at night, your melatonin can ramp up like it's supposed to, which is a signal for sleepiness. Alternatively, if you have bright overhead lights, or if you're using an electronic screen that's very close to the receptors in the back of your eye for light, then you could be suppressing your own body's natural production of melatonin, and this can affect your sleep. So I would strongly suggest that instead of taking an over-the-counter supplement, one that you really don't know what's in it, you just take some steps to enhance your own body's production of melatonin. And this can help you develop more trust in your sleep. Now, melatonin is not really a sleep aid either. Instead, it helps to signal the timing of your sleep. So you'll become more sleepy as the melatonin is naturally rising in your body. But it isn't terribly reliable for getting you to sleep or keeping you asleep. There is, however, a very strong placebo effect, which may account for some of the positive experiences that people have with melatonin. Now, if you want to continue taking melatonin, just know that you're taking a little bit of a risk with what you're buying over the counter, and be aware that melatonin is not terribly shelf stable. So you want to store it in darkness, keep it away from the light. And also, if you ever get a chance to buy melatonin with the United States Pharmacopoeia label or USP label on the outside of the bottle, that can give you a little bit of extra insurance that that particular product has been vetted. For children, doses of melatonin greater than 1 milligram are not effective. So keep the dose low, 1 milligram or less. Typically, if I'm asked to about melatonin, I would start with a 0.5 milligram dosage. And when choosing a supplement, it's best to choose single ingredient preparations. That means you're not picking something with melatonin, valerian root, chamomile, You don't want something that has a bunch of ingredients in it, because you want to determine if it's working for you. And if you're experiencing side effects, you want to know that it can be attributed to that one specific ingredient. There is one type of melatonin that I do recommend, and I'll show you that here. This is a melatonin preparation that comes from Pure Encapsulations, and you can find it at pureencapsulations.com. I don't get any kickback or affiliation with this company. I simply have talked to them and understand that they do quality assurance measures to make sure that the melatonin that's on the label matches what's in the bottle. Now, this is a liquid preparation of melatonin, and in this case, 1 milliliter or 1 dropper full equals 2.5 milligrams of melatonin. So I like that you can sort of customize how much melatonin you're getting, and it's a single ingredient preparation, so you can determine if melatonin works for you. It does say dietary supplement on the bottle, which is appropriate, and the taste is not too bad. So you want to take, maybe start with a quarter of a dropper full, place it under your tongue an hour or an hour and a half before bedtime, and see if you get any benefit from that. Thanks for listening, guys. Take good care.